people, Deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning back in. The reason these are here, I've literally just made a video incorporating and using them, so I really should have moved them away. But obviously in the build up to Arsenal versus Manchester City, it's almost the calm before the storm, the calm before the inevitable defeat. Small hope as football fans. I mean, it was raining last night, the sun is shining. Nobody gives us a chance, myself included, against City. Hopefully we can win. When I remove myself from la-la land and things, we ain't got a snowball's chance, regardless of City's form. The only benefits I can see is we're underdogs. People expect us to get battered regardless, so you might as well go out there and play like you've got nothing to lose. Do not sit back and admire how good these City players are or how far away we are from them, or keep playing on this low on confidence thing, because you'll be eaten alive against City. It's literally the worst coach side off the ball in the league versus, give or take, them in Liverpool and whatnot, the best coach side off the ball. They will exploit for all their talent on the ball. It's off the ball what is going to make a difference today. But this ain't a video for all of that, people. I thought I might as well go through the latest rumours and things like that in relation to Arsenal. Apparently, the Mirror claim prospective managerial targets are being put off joining Arsenal as they don't believe they will receive the backing needed to overhaul the squad. Brendan Rodgers and Roberto Martinez are among those to reject the chance to hold formal talks with the club. Now, if that's legit, who knows? If I'm Brendan Rodgers, at least to the end of the season, I'm not leaving Leicester. Typically, I'm not saying Leicester are going to fall off and things, but in a year from now, if Leicester don't get in the top four again, which they're going to do this year, I don't know, if Chilwell digs his heels in and says he wants to leave, or a couple of them want to leave, or just poor form and Rodgers gets fired, because that's what you've seen with football these days, that's what you see all the time, what would he say? I wouldn't advocate leaving mid-season, especially going from where he's got stability, where as great as he's been coaching and whatnot for Leicester, before he even took over at Leicester, look at the base of players he had to work with. It was just a case of actually being allowed to coach. Come to Arsenal, where there are some players I believe you can move forward with, but there's players that are experienced, that need their hands held, that need to go. We need to bring in a couple. There's contract nonsense. Are you going to be back to bring in the targets? Are we going to assemble a scouting team or have a scouting team in that if we're not going to go out and drop 40, 50 on a player, we're able to identify players that can immediately come in and improve the squad for 2 or so million. If you're not doing either or, why would Rodgers, on top of Leicester being far away from Arsenal and Arsenal being a mess right now, why would you want to come? Why would you want to leave? Roberto Martinez, forgive me if I'm wrong, he's Belgian manager. They've got the Euros to come. Why would you want to leave midway through? If they're going to make these moves, it's crazy as it is, they've both wanted to come to Arsenal in their current state. You'd imagine they'd wait until May. And whatnot. And for Brendan Rodgers, he's probably going to have a lot of options. I mean, depending on what happens with Pep Guardiola, you've seen him linked with that. So he could have Arsenal and City on top of staying at Leicester, because he is going to be backed by Leicester to get some money. I'm not sure if he fancies collecting Iheanacho, for example. I know he's playing him, but I'm just going to highlight, he might get to bring in another striker, he might get to bring in another centre-half, he might, whatever area Leicester fans or Leicester believe they need. I don't know, maybe a sick winger, I believe, like a proper top winger would complement the rest of their attacking options well. He's got a good thing going at Leicester, and for me, it's as long as he should stay at Leicester as long as he can keep pushing in terms of Champions League. Can they qualify for Champions League again next year if they do? Also, if he's going to be allowed to keep this team together and bring in recruitments, because obviously you've seen Maguire leave. Now, Maguire, on the face of it, would have made more sense to stay at Leicester than Manchester United. But it's United. If the Chelseas and these teams come for Maddison, which has been reported, Chilwell, and the rest of them, maybe even Telemans soon, I don't think there's any reason to leave. And didn't Telemans reject bigger clubs to stay at Leicester because he's getting game time and playing? That's the belly of the beast. Leicester have shown they won't be bullied. They're not letting players go for top dollar. But my point is, if a couple of these players leave, Vardy's a sick player and scoring goals, but he's not going to be around scoring goals forever. Failure to address these sides or poor results could mean a fall-off thing. But you'd rather stay at Leicester and stay there, and on the chance of that, then come to Arsenal where, pardon me, there's too many politics behind the scenes. There's too many chefs in the kitchen spoiling the meals. Experienced players with bad habits, just a lot of them are not coachable, and they need to be, just let go. It wouldn't make sense being on the verge of what he could do at Leicester coming to Arsenal. Martinez, he might want to manage in the Premier League again, but for me, I'll take the Euros job seriously. I wouldn't quit the Belgian role midway through the season to come to this shambolic Arsenal side. I'd at least want to manage in the Euros, in which, in terms of Arsenal planning for next season, if it was Martinez, how much could we realistically plan without the manager actually being there? If he's, July, anything from June to July, I don't know the exact dates of the Euros, but doesn't that coincide with Arsenal's pre-season getting underway? I don't know if the season's going to be delayed. Obviously, I don't think it will, but number of players won't play that are going to be playing in the Euros. Can't imagine many Arsenal players will be in that Euros. Like, who's going to go really? If he's still here, Jacques will go with Switzerland. Lacazette's not going with France. Bellerin's probably not going with Spain. Leno will go with Germany as a second, third choice keeper, I guess. I don't know if Bosnia are in it. That could affect Kolasinac. I don't know for Greece either, boys. So I don't know for Socrates either. Really, I don't know if Greece are in it. I don't think they are. Forgive me if I'm wrong. You get the point. There's not too many players at Arsenal that are going to go anyway. So, yeah. But in terms of bringing in recruitment, in terms of coaching, and especially if these players are not actually going and they're going to be available in pre-season, if the manager isn't there, then are we necessarily going to start off as we means to go on? And who wouldn't? People have been, way before Emre, people will probably put off Arsenal. People will always be attracted to Arsenal. It's Arsenal Football Club. If the money was there and the intent from the board was there, you don't think Allegri, Luiz Enrique, all these guys would not want to come. But they're seeing it beyond the fact of it's Arsenal and the character of Arsenal on your CV and manage and bring them back. You don't know what the board's on you. You don't know if you're going to get the targets. You don't know if you're going to be able to improve this side. So why would you want to go into a poison chalice or a poison position? You can hear Ljungberg. Ljungberg's actually begging for staff additions and saying he's short on recruitment. Why he's probably not been allowed to bring in staff? Clearly because we're leaving positions open if and when that new manager arrives. So yeah, no clue why people can't be brought on a short-term basis for Ljungberg, but that's just my assumption, people. So why would Rodgers and whoever want to leave stability to come to this, people, really and truly? Apparently, if Arsenal can wait until the summer, they will have a wait. Let me don't make sense, people. Let me bring it back from the top. I've got a couple screenshots. The Daily Mail has apparently said Freddie will have to keep Arsenal in contention for a Europa League place if he is to stay in charge till the summer. Arsenal used to fret over making the Champions League, but now need to hang on to Europa League football if they're to build the squad with a new coach. That's probably in relation to the wage bill. I mean, the bar is very low. No disrespect to Ljungberg or the team. I mean, you've got to really try, any team in the top six, you've got to try really hard not to be involved in Europa League action. Hopefully it's not the case. And he said, he's gone on to say, Arsenal say they're impressed with Ljungberg and appreciate the energy he has brought to the club, which suggests that they are preparing for him to be in the medium term while they identify the right candidate. I mean, that's hardly news. We knew there wasn't, I'd hope there isn't going to be an appointment for appointment's sake, and Ljungberg was either going to get it short term from 1 week to 4 weeks until a manager comes in, medium term from now until the new year, or long term at least until May. We knew this, people, and there isn't much Ljungberg can do. Like I said, in his games we can critique his tactics, but what I like is he's trying to get players playing with clarity in the mind, trying to get players playing forward, trying to play players in their same position. I know he's done some weird stuff where he played two cams on the wings or whatever he did in one of the games I criticised, but genuinely he's doing that. The young players are waxing lyrical about him. Young players again are training with the first team, which gives these young players hope that the pathway is there. And because it's Ljungberg and whatnot, obviously people get behind him. Whether he's the man to change it, who knows? Because as much as I like him, and I do feel on one hand, when you're a coach, you can't necessarily stop Emre, who is his superior, and say, yo, you should do this or you should do that. You can give your opinion, but you can't necessarily, I would have thought he saw what Emre did wrong and he's going to try and do that right. And I've seen a lot of that. But I've also seen a lot of the same things that Emre did under Ljungberg. And I think by the flip side of me being in that environment, seeing what someone's doing and immediately doing something different, I think to myself, people, when you're involved in that environment or in that madness, maybe you can't necessarily see what's wrong, or maybe your voice won't necessarily get through to the players because you've been in the madness. It's not like when it was a breath of fresh... It is a breath of fresh air, but when Lampard came into Chelsea, obvious Chelsea ties, but he's come from Derby. Everyone's getting behind him. The players already know what Ljungberg's about and things, and they're fighting for him. You're seeing Ozil loving his time again, and I'm not critiquing Ljungberg, but that's just what I think. Apparently, if Arsenal can wait until the summer, they will have a wider field from which to choose. But they know that Europa League football is the minimum required to continue recruiting and sustaining the current wage bill. This same wage bill where you said is already unsustainable because we're on a Europa League budget. So again, as a direct conflict, the board, what the board and the players do from all levels, it correlates. If you play well on the football field, financial rewards will correlate. We'll get Champions League. That means more money. That means better players. That means better commercial deals, etc. And they two are hand in hand. Equally, if you do poor, if the recruitment is poor, if you recruit poor, if you play poor, a direct consequence of this is fluking out on a Champions League for a number of years now. Obviously, apparently, we're missing out on 45 million we heard a few months ago from the Champions League. What isn't it, 10 or so million for Emre and his backroom staff? So that's about 55, 60 million, give or take, depending on a specific figure, just as a direct consequence of failing on a football field. And these things are going to keep happening. So we have two choices. The club there needs to be a structure. The existing players, in particular the young ones, the teens to early 20s people, we need to be, or mid 20s, we need to be developing what specific player do we want them to be and how are they going to fit into our jigsaw. Torreira, ball winning, how is he going to fit in? Guendouzi, what is he going to be? Joe, Saka, Martinelli, Nelson, Emil, squad players, star players, however they're gonna thingy. And the holes that aren't plugged or the gaps that need plugging, we're gonna have to work. This is where I say scouts have to earn their keep. I ain't got no names to say, but these lot are paid to watch We Scout, Scout 7, all of these hours of games. You should be able to go out and find a right back, a central midfielder, a centre half. If we cannot go out there and outbid teams or go for targets that we want to get because of a direct consequence of not getting Champions League football, there needs to be a sustained mission and a real recruitment drive. And I don't necessarily feel the men in charge know what they're doing because Mislintat's gone. Shout out to Eddie for Martinelli. But what sort of players are we going after? What sort of scouting operations are there? You have two choices. You spend money or you let scouts do their job, and it seems like we're oohing and ahhing and we're just picking our targets based on the papers. David Luiz, for example, a blind man could have seen that was going to be a terrible signing beyond the fact of, and I know for a fact because in my professional life I haven't directly come across David Luiz, but indirectly he's a very nice individual, very nice person, the sort that you like around the training ground. He treats everybody with respect, from the cleaners to the manager. He remembers everybody's name. He buys everybody presents. He's a very good person. Trust me, he's a very good person. But being a very good person don't mean you're a very good footballer. Everyone could have seen David Luiz is terrible. The mistakes he made somewhat been magnified at this club now somehow. We haven't got any structure in defence, so why are you going to add someone like that into it? It don't make no sense. This is what I'm talking about, people. Pepe, I've got no problem with Pepe's recruitment because give or take, that for me signalled ambition. Yes, Lille versus Zaha and Palace. Palace probably wanted more upfront money. They're a Premier League club. Lille typically get these young players and sell them in, so we was able to, structure the payments. That was an ambitious signing for me. Ceballos hasn't worked out, but I didn't think we could get Ceballos on loan, so I won't say that's ambitious, but I was like, cool. Tierney was a good one, but apart from that, where's been the recruitment drive? Because you look at it, for the last 2 years, on a whiteboard, there should have been what we want our team to look at. You brought in Torreira, Guendouzi, which are two, give or take with Xhaka, on a regular basis, play in the pivot. So how was you going to improve them in midfield, and how does their roles in midfield tie into protecting the defence and offering something in midfield? Obviously, I'm forgetting another man in midfield because it's typically a 4-3-3 thing for me. But you sign Leno. You get it. You sign Leno. You've got Holding. You've brought in Tierney. You've got Bellerin, who's not the oldest. How was we looking at it? Okay, we've brought in Leno. He's going to be part of a good defence. We need a centre half. How is that defence going to tie in together? We've brought in Tierney. It's like we do bits of both. It's like we take one step forward and 10 back. If you sign these players, then there should have been, okay, you've got Leno, you've got Tierney, you've got this, you've got that. How do we improve as a defence? How do we get some stability? And then, and it's actually a bit of on Emre, because I've been saying this from pre-season. Obviously, players weren't fit, but the coaching and the improvement. How do we start moving as a team? Are we pressing together? Are we marking together? Do you get it? Are we moving like a unit? If we was doing that, then I think it could have been as white and black as some fans said, as watch when Tierney's back, Holding's back, Bellerin's back. With all due respect to these individuals, it's not necessarily their fault. We have seen a bag of different man in defence, a bag of 3 at the back, 4 at the back, 5 at the back, and we look a shambles regardless. So on top of the players not being good enough and having bad habits, it goes back to coaching. How we... Our whole approach to defending as a team has to change, people, really and truly. And until that changes, Arsenal can potentially forget about winning anything of significance, people, or getting back in the Champions League and all of these sort of things, people. So moving on from that, apparently Ljungberg spoken about the negativity at Arsenal at the Emirates and whatnot, and he said, "It is the right of the fans to be this way. Of course, I want them to be with us. I know how much it means to the players, and I can see sometimes when it happens, they can go a little bit down." Now, again, it's our job as fans to give them the energy, and it's down to the players to support us. Right now, it's down to the players to give the energy to the fans, because the fans were there screaming, "We're getting top 4, buying all the shirts, supporting these players." Obviously, some Arsenal fans take it too far in winning and losing, but it's down to the players, I feel, to show us. Again, these men are human. When you've got people booing and toxic, you are going to cry into a shell. But at the same token of that, you've got to stand up to be counted. You almost can't care what fans have to say. You've got to have that mentality. You can't give a F about the fans to a degree, in that you can't let their booing and whatnot make you go into a shell. You want them to stop booing, stand up and be counted. Why do you think no one gets at Martinelli? Do you get it? Because he runs around, he tries, he puts in the effort and whatnot. That's what the Prem's about. Too many players, I'm not saying they don't try, but all this puppy dog thing, people, I can't deal with this shouting, I'm curling into a ball. I get it, I sympathise with it. I tell you, look, I grew up on Arsene Wenger, I get all that arm around people, but the same logic, life is tough, people. When I see this, I just think it's pussycat business. Some of you, listen, you're playing football. Enjoy it. Forget about the fans. Remember what made you play this game. Don't be scared of making mistakes. Don't be scared of fans getting at you. Go out there and try. Whatever happens, happens. They've got to have that fearless approach, because we're going into games scared. You cannot go into any game in the Prem scared, let alone against City. We're going to get smacked in. Moving on. He's gone on. That's something I will talk to them about. They already know about it, but I will try to prepare them for it if and when it happens. But I think when we play City at home, the fans know it'll be a very tough game and will be with us regardless. I want to make sure I respect the decisions and voice of the fans. In my opinion, they are the club, and we try to do the best we can for them. We try to respect them and make them know we are doing it. Make them know why we are doing this. I hope they have seen that in the last fortnight. Not sure on that, Ljungberg, but I sympathise with you, my GG, for sure. Apparently, like I said, Arsenal are obviously impressed with Ljungberg and the energy he's brought. The same report went on to say, it is fairly certain that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang will be sold in the summer, given that he only has a year left on his deal. And while new deals with the Emirates and Adidas mean commercial income rises this season, they will have to pay 10 million compensation to Unai Emery and his staff. Now, I don't want Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to leave, but we need to get some money from him. He's probably going to be available for a basement fee, probably getting 60 million euros, helps us break even. Certain fans were saying selling him last year. We have to make a decision. We cannot go into next season with not just him, but Lacazette or anyone else's contracts beyond the obvious, because I believe Mustafi and David Luiz's contracts are up in 2021. Apart from duds like that, we have to sell Aubameyang, and I can't begrudge Aubameyang for leaving. Since the moment he's come here, he's done his job to the best of his ability, scored goals. He's 30, 31, he hasn't got time for Arsenal to not be moving consistently as a team. And if you're harsh, it's good for us that we've got Martinelli, Saka, Nelson, all these young players. But what does that mean for him? That's a young squad. I mean, in 3 years, I expect them to improve and expect them to be more consistent, but they'll still be developing. We'll still be saying it's a relatively young squad. That's not cool for Aubameyang, because 3 years for Saka and that is nothing. They'll be in their early 20s. Aubameyang's career is more or less going to wind down, which it is now. This is his best opportunity to go and get trophies. So if there is legitimate interest from PSGs and Barca's and Madrid's, then you cannot begrudge him for keeping it moving, people. I'm sure none of you can and none of you will. On that note, though, I'm going to keep it moving. I've got nothing more to add. So, people, DG.